Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development and Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. So Cindy and I have had a wonderful opportunity over the last several weeks to chat with panelists, executive panelists, and partners for the upcoming Leadership Legacy experience on June 13th at the Atlantic Union Bank Center. Today, I've got the opportunity to chat with a dear friend of ours. Andy Vanhook has been a wonderful friend for the last several years. Appeal Production has been intimately involved with the Live to Lead Harrisonburg event over the last several years. This year, they're doing something really, really cool for us. They're helping us capture the entire day on video. So depending on where you're accessing it, it may be part of a digital resource that features all the sessions throughout the day, the opening keynote, the closing keynote, each of the executive panels, and much, much more. But I'm just thrilled to get to have this conversation with Andy. Now, Andy's got some fun stories on what led to starting Appeal Production. I don't know if we'll get into all that today, like Collections Friday or anything like that, but he and the team at Appeal, everybody at the team at Appeal, are absolute rock stars in their industry. When they say, hey, we increase business visibility, and I'm butchering their statement a little bit, by creating dazzling video, they mean it. It's absolutely world class. When you see their work and compare it side by side with other stuff, it's just not, there's no comparison. It's amazing what they do. Andy, with that said, I've set the bar hopefully not too high. Share a little bit of your professional background and kind of the experience in your industry, but you do so much outside of it as well.
Thanks, Wes. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We have gone back a good ways now as friends and colleagues and collaborators. I mean, I remember when there was very few tokens on the wall behind you, and now there's a whole plethora of tokens on the wall behind you, and I love it. I love it. It means we've been on this journey together, and I truly appreciate that. Appreciate the time to be here. Let's see, Andy Vanhook. I'm the imaginative producer and CEO at Appeal Production. And Appeal Production is a video marketing firm based in Harrisonburg that looks to grow companies' businesses with dazzling video. And we've been in business for 14 years as of this past February. And I was working at another company before that for about a decade. So I've been doing video production for about 25 years now, which is pretty weird to say in some ways, because I still feel like I'm 20, okay, maybe 25, but I'm definitely not that anymore. So anyway.
Andy, I'm going to touch on this. It's outside of your industry, but it's become just so much of a part of who you are and what you do. Maybe we'll come back to this more later on when it speaks to purpose and some of the values. But while we're chatting, talk through some of the community initiatives, the philanthropy, some of the different things you've done specific to Rotary. But there's just so many more things that you've been involved with that's really increased that professional experience, and you've sewn into the community, not just through video, but through so many other ways.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. I appreciate that compliment. Yeah, I've been fortunate to be involved in a lot of community organizations over the last 14 years. The Harrisonburg, Rockingham Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Augusta Chamber of Commerce. Gosh, I could probably list the variety of boards. United Way in Augusta County, Blue Ridge Community College Educational Foundation has been a big one that I've been a part of recently. Valley Business Keynote. And it's been, reason I've been a part of those is I think it's been opportunities to meet new people. And that's always something that I enjoy. It's when I first started doing it was some way to get some exposure for our company and meet new people. And then, always giving back to the community and seeing if my talents could help that organization in some form or fashion. What and I forgot to mention Rotary. Gosh, I've done a lot in Rotary in the community here in Harrisonburg and Rockingham. I'm getting ready to become the district governor, which doesn't mean a lot because a lot of people don't understand what that means. But essentially, I will have I'll be a cheerleader for 75 clubs from Clark County all the way down, Clark County, Virginia, all the way down into northeastern Tennessee and around the south side of Virginia. So anyway, that'll start on July 1st. So that's been a pretty big part of that. But yeah, I think it's interesting. You mentioned about the aspect that I didn't really consider until later was, working at a small company, starting Appeal with two of my founding partners, John and Bo. You're hustling, you're grinding, you're trying to make sure the business stays afloat over those first few years. And what I realized later was getting involved in these community organizations. I got to see how other organizations ran and also apply some of those pieces that I might learn to our business. And maybe more importantly, to your point, is I got to see how other people lead and taking that opportunity to just absorb their styles and apply it to things that I could, situations I may run into, or saying, hey, I really like the way they handled that, and just being able to utilize that. So it's been a pretty cool thing to be able to incorporate as well.
Yeah. Now, Andy, you used the term cheerleader, and I remember maybe as much as a year ago, I don't remember exactly when the conversation was, but you and I were chatting through and you said, hey, what's one word that you would use to describe me? And my response was encourager. And that's something that I've felt from you the entire time that we've been friends. We're basically the same age. We've been married about the same number of years. There's just so many similarities and parallels between what we're doing. And it really leads to the next question. And you and I'm going to use the term commiserated more than a few times about, hey, sometimes running a business is freaking hard. I almost swore right there. I didn't. I held my tongue. It's freaking hard. And in many cases, it would be easier to go get a stinking job and just punch the clock, do our thing, go home and not worry about it. And we might even make more money sometimes too, right? For you, what's been that clear purpose? Because without it, we don't do what we do. What's been the clear purpose for accepting that leadership responsibility that comes with starting and running a business?
Well, I think in some ways, I started the clear purpose, leading with the clear purpose, because I had to. John, Bo, and I, essentially lost our jobs at the beginning of February of 2011. And we were with our last paychecks having a beer and trying to decide what to do. And I like to say none of us were smart enough to go get real jobs. And so we started a video production company. And as we were talking about it, we were discussing whose roles were going to be what. And Bo said, well, I want to edit. And John said, well, I want to shoot. And I said, well, I guess I drew the short straw and I've got to go sell. And I think with that, I also had some other experience working at the previous company I did for 10 years. And I knew a little bit more on the, on the bookkeeping side of things and some of the business side of things. And so I think there was some of that was by default, and I'm also the oldest one. So some of that I think happened as well. But I think as I grew into it, I realized that, I felt like that if those guys were going to do those jobs and do them well, then they were relying on me to lead the organization, bring in the revenue and that kind of thing. And so I really took it not as just looking at myself. I took it as looking at as the whole. And even when you're running a small business or any business, at least the way I think about it is I've got the people who I work with and who report to me or whatever that we partner with, but their families are also relying on us to be successful as well. We live in a world, or at least our country is where it's tough to live in a single household income. And so, if I'm not doing my job and leading the company well and bringing in enough revenue, then their families are going to struggle. And so I took that on and put that weight on my shoulders and say, well, this is my job, so this is how we got to run forward. If that answered your question.
It does 100%. And it ties back to so many of the other things that you do in the service, in communities, in nonprofits, and so on. It's really that service that I see you do for so many people. How can we be a blessing to other people? And therefore, when we do enough of that, gosh, it helps us too, right?
Yeah.
Now, in your role, Andy, when you guys own the company, owning a company, running a business, and really developing ourselves in leadership are two wildly different things. Being an owner don't make you a leader, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in the garage don't make me a car. What motivated you? And you mentioned it earlier with Valley Business Keynote. You were one of the founding board members that really helped initiate that. But what motivated you personally to get involved in leadership development and any type of training that you could get to really hone those skills for yourself personally?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really been I've always kind of had the mindset that I don't know it all. At least I like to think I don't know it all. Maybe others don't feel like I act that way, but I promise you, I know that I don't feel like I know it all. Anyway, I think it was just one of those, is that what's the opportunity that I can better our company, better my colleagues, teammates, people I collaborate with in other organizations. How can I better my community? How can I better myself? And I found that through various, leadership trainings, various organizations of being involved with, talking to other people, just taking somebody to coffee and going, hey, I admire what you've done in your business. How did you get there? How did you get to where you are now? We were just starting 2 years in, and I'm looking at this person who's been successful for 20. It's like, I know that's been a run, but how did you do that? What did you do? What mistakes did you make that I could potentially learn from? And just kind of taking that mindset of continuous learning. It's like, I can always find an opportunity to improve. How can I be a better leader, better listener? Yeah.
I love it. And that's a reality. I mean, I say all the time that praise God for the relationships I've been able to develop over the years, because I'm not very good at many things, but because I've met a lot of good people, I've gotten better at some of the things that I just never would have known or had access to. Now,
yeah, I think like you said, I mean, you always have great sayings. If you sit in the garage, it doesn't make me a car. I think to take a little bit of a turn on that is, if I just sit in the garage and think that because I own the company or because I'm in a certain position, that makes me a leader, that's not the case either. So you have to practice it. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to, go, oh yeah, I kind of messed up that conversation. And you can read a lot of books, but you have to put it into practice, or go to the seminars or those kinds of things. If you're not practicing the things that you're learning, that's not going to improve you as a leader. And so if you just, sit with your head in the sand, or you don't really pay attention to, those opportunities, then you might be a good leader of one person. I doubt you'll be a good leader of many.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've heard me say this dozens of times, and we wrap up every lesson we do with, what are you going to do different? If you took a bunch of notes, but you don't apply it, should have stayed at work. Should have done something productive instead of just sitting here taking notes that you're not going to do anything with, because that doesn't matter. That's not leadership. Now, Andy, you guys at Appeal, you've been so intimately involved with the Live to Lead experience over the last several years, capturing video for some that we've been able to share with attendees and different stuff. And you even emceed, I believe it was in the 2020 year, right? When we had to wear masks and we were limited to the number of people and so on and so forth. Why have you been willing to do that? Because you've got so many other things on your plate. And more specifically, when we started chatting with you, because it's our 10-year anniversary this year as well. Yeah. And Cindy and I were very intentional when we were creating the Leadership Legacy experience not to overlap, because truth be told, our true anniversary is the same month as Valley Business Keynote. And we didn't want to be viewed as competing or pissing in the same sandbox, so to speak. We wanted to make sure it was a collaborative relationship. With all that you've got going on, why have you guys been willing to be involved in the Live to Lead events over the years? And now this year, with everything you guys are able to help us with the Leadership Legacy experience.
Have you seen your smile, Wes? I mean, it's hard to say no to you.
Not very often do I see my smile.
I think it's been It's been multiple reasons, right? I mean, one is we believe in what you guys are doing, and um, we benefit from it. We're learning from it. We're taking those things that those notes that we take and applying them. Maybe not as many as we would like, but we're doing those kinds of things. I think it's an opportunity for us to bring clients and friends who may not have experienced that and have an opportunity to participate in a leadership event. And again, I think it's just, how is that continual learning piece flowing through our organization? And also, how can we support other community organizations that we believe in, right? And you guys are one of those. And what can we do to help lift you guys up and get you the exposure you need, and all in multiple ways?
Well, we've cherished the relationship, the support, all the interaction. Now, I'm going to change the direction just for a little bit, and
Sure.
I'm going to poke at you a little bit about what would you like the community to know about Appeal that they probably don't know. They might say, oh, they do video, but what's that thing that the community should absolutely know that you guys do that's special, that's not something they get anywhere else or they experience with anybody else?
That's a great question. And then you did provide a couple of these ahead of time, and that was the one I kept saying, I'll come back to that one. I'll come back to that one. I almost want to do the Jedi trick and flip it back on you and ask you, well, you've been a client. What would you say makes us stand out?
Yeah, I'm prepared. Do you want me to start, or do you want to do it?
I want to hear what you have to say first.
Okay. So I'll absolutely say it. What I experienced, what I don't have is, I know what we do, but I don't have that outside looking in experience. And our experience working with you guys is, you said your role is imaginative producer. And I remember some of the first conversations we had at the office. I don't even remember the street it was on. It was maybe a block or so away from the Burger King on
Yep.
East Market or whatever.
Yep.
And I remember sitting down and chatting through, here's some ideas, and what you and then as Bryn and Claire and John and Bo got involved, really put the imaginative part in. That was something that I've never experienced anywhere else. I've seen some things like it, but not to the level. And then just the world-class production, all the different pieces you added, that was what I can say, bam, like that. That's what we got from it.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I think that's the experience we want people to have is, we want it to be collaborative. We want to understand what, essentially what problem you're hiring video to solve. And you may have an idea of what that looks like. Hopefully we can, we get the opportunity to bring our experience and vision to what we think would actually work, that achieves that goal that you have and solves that problem you're hiring video to solve. I think another piece of it is we genuinely want our clients to succeed, and that's regardless of working with us or not. Even if you just have a conversation with us, if we work together, we really want to create video content that works, that reaches your audience, that accomplishes the goals you're trying to accomplish, and it helps your business grow and succeed.
And it's fun to watch. I mean, I had your homepage up on one of my separate screens because I just popped it over into the comments wherever this is feeding live to and so on. And I saw so many of the companies that I'm familiar with. Matter of fact, I knew one of the guys from one of them at the Stone Quarry. I saw Alvin Brubaker. He's my neighbor around the corner and so on. And I'm going, gosh, these are the folks. And I know just how genuine that is. I know the heart behind it. I see what you guys do, the effort you put into it to make sure every one of the clients succeed at such a high level. And you capture that story in a way that I'm not sure anybody else does otherwise. So it's cool to watch.
No, thank you.
You do so many different things in the community. Talk about a successful project that you and the team at Appeal have been really involved with. You've maybe even spearheaded, and the impact that it's had on not just that one organization, but maybe the community of whole. And this might be challenging because there's a whole bunch that you guys do.
Well, I mean, are you looking more specific, like cliently, and like a client project? Or are you looking more for like a community type of thing? What are you thinking?
Anything that you feel good about that's had an impact, because there's so many. I mean, and you can do multiples if you want,
Yeah.
but something that you guys have been involved with that you say, hey, we left our fingerprint here. That we supported it. It might not have been the same had we not been able to get involved.
Oh, I appreciate that. I think from, a project that we did with a client, I can go through a bunch of client projects, and I think that I feel proud of, and I feel like that made an impact for those organizations. You mentioned Fraser Quarry, really proud of how that one turned out, and kind of lifts up what those guys do, and highlights how crushed stone is in more places than people realize, and it's literally under your feet pretty much every step of where you go, unless you're out in the woods. So that was a pretty fun project. We did a project for a company that was wanting to reach teens as they were getting into their driving age about signing their driver's license to be an organ donor. And so that was a pretty cool project to work on. It was an animated video, and that was a fun one, with some longer term meaning there. Valley Association for Independent Living, Vail, in our community, we've done some work for them recently to highlight their Cardinal wheelchair basketball program, and to do two things. One, to let the community know, hey, if you're wheelchair bound, you can come play basketball with the basketball team. And then B, if you're in the community and you want to come watch these men and women play basketball, come on out and cheer them on, because it's amazing to watch these folks do it. And if you've ever tried wheelchair basketball, it's not an easy sport. And so it's a pretty cool thing. That was a fun project as well. And we've been a part of the JMU Small Business Game Changer for the last 3 years, which we've chosen a company to win that marketing program. So that's $20,000 with JMU Sports Properties and a $10,000 value video from Appeal Production, and picking out small businesses who could use a little boost in their marketing. And so that's been a fun project as well.
Yeah, and this year specifically with Harrisonburg Dance Co-op, and I'm probably butchering the name. The reality is for private businesses, could Cindy and I have afforded it? Probably not that package, but could we have put our stuff together and really put something together? Yes, we could, and so on. But in their case, it wouldn't have happened otherwise. And a very close friend of mine is currently the president of that co-op, and working through their board and so on. And it's just amazing to see the impact you're making on the whole board, but even on him as he's learning leadership and that responsibility. So it's you could go on all day. You're humble. You're playing it off a little bit, but you guys do so much for so many people that, the impact on the community as a whole, and even within your industry, you raise the bar for other folks to say, holy crap, this is what Appeal's doing. I've got to compete. So it's pretty wild. We're blessed that we've got the relationship with you guys that we do. Now,
I appreciate the compliments, Wes.
This next question's a little bit different for you, because you and John and Bo started it, but talk about the purpose that you guys started the company for, and how it aligns so much with your own personal values and the purpose that you really work toward for yourself.
Yeah, I think we really started it again, kind of out of need in some form or fashion, and at the same time, there was opportunity there, and thought that would be, using our skill sets to provide a service that was not going to be in the community. And I think as we've grown, and even from the beginning, it's how can we be who we are and serve our clients well and help them succeed with the talents that we have. And I think that's kind of been the purpose, is just really serving our clients along the way, and giving them the best advice and creative that we can, and hoping that it hoping it works, but also with that experience, it usually, I think, it does work. And so I think that's kind of been the driving force, is really just that collaboration. How can we help our clients just succeed and grow using our talents?
And that's that parallels so much what I heard Gil Coleman say. You were part of our executive leadership league think tank for several years with Gil, and Gil's words were, "Hey, I had a great experience as an engineer for another company, but it allowed me to take what I was doing anyway and do it at a level that I felt proud of."
Mm-hmm.
Where maybe when he was an employee, he didn't control all those aspects. And I see you and John and Bo, and now Claire and Brent as partners with you guys, doing that at a level you guys could get jobs. Truth be told, most folks don't realize this as business owners. You could probably get jobs that pay you more than owning the business, right? But the reality is you lose some of that control to be able to serve in the capacity that you're really, really proud of. And hey, for me and Cindy, that juice has been worth the squeeze all day long. Is it about the money? Nah, I'd go get a job if it were about the money.
Yeah.
But to make a
absolutely.
I'm proud of the difference we can make. And I know you guys are too. Now, you do this a lot, and I'm going to put you on the spot to do it here. What advice would you give an aspiring young professional that's looking to advance their career specifically and take on leadership responsibility? Because again, being in the role don't make you the leader. Earning that influence, earning that respect makes you a leader. What advice would you give for that?
Oh man, a lot. I would say, man, so many things. I think, realizing and trying to find, or, listening to others when they point out maybe blind spots that you have, and understanding that those blind spots aren't a bad thing. It's just, you may not have realized it. That's why they're called a blind spot. If somebody's giving you some feedback on how you could improve, maybe take that advice, listen to it, and help to work on those blind spots. I would also say, for me, when we first started at Appeal, would go out to chamber events and things and networking things and talk to people, and somebody might ask me for a thing, like something that we didn't do. And I would be willing to, and I still am, I'm happy to provide referrals and connections to other people. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in video or my industry or marketing or that kind of thing. And I don't mean this in a creepy way. I've kind of called it be a people collector. And it's like, what does my network look like to when somebody says, hey, when we're just having a conversation, hey, I need a new roof. Oh, okay, well, here's a couple of people I know, and I think, I've had nice conversations with them that you might want to give them a call. And kind of being a giver in that way, to where I'm not just saying, hey, will you buy my service? Will you buy my product? It's like, well, how can I help you with the problem you're currently having? Whether it's personal related, business related, whatever that is. If I've got somebody in my mental Rolodex of people, how can I help connect those people to others? And so I felt like when we first started, I got kind of caught up in like, oh, well, I got to talk to all these people and I got to make sure that they're a lead. And what I found was, if I could spread seeds and say, hey, I can just connect people, it may not come back to me right away, but when the time came for them to think about having video work done, they would come back to us. And so I guess what I'm saying is talk to other people, not with the goal of getting something from them, but what can you do for them? And doesn't have to come back. Just know that you've helped that person make this life that's challenging for all of us at some point and often. How can you make their life a little bit better, a little bit easier?
Andy, I can tell you the name of one that you introduced me to. And quite frankly, Cindy and I live for that. We love being able to introduce people to good people.
Yep.
But one you did for me, and I can tell you where we stood. We were at Cross Keys Vineyards. We were at the JMU Sports Properties holiday party 2 years ago.
Yep.
And you introduced me to a guy named Josh Cardarelli. And he is part of the board of the Harrisonburg Professional Firefighters Foundation that we're really building around. That's our community partner for the Leadership Legacy experience. And because Josh was in that first board meeting that I went to, I've joined that board and I'm able to work. But that's a relationship that you helped start that has been really, really cool to get to know. So I can speak 100% firsthand that I've watched you do that. I've experienced that. I've benefited from that. Now, I remember telling a boss about a dozen years ago, Andy, that he said, "Hey, I can only give you a tiny little raise, but you're doing so many great things, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Dude, your name ain't in the book. I read where it says, as you sow, so shall you reap. Somebody's going to pay me, and it doesn't have to be you." But that's a true statement, right? You mentioned sowing. Just take care of people, and it comes back somewhere, somehow. Maybe not that same relationship. And gosh, what words to live by. And for so many young people, how do you do it? Because it's early on, we got to eat, right?
Yep.
But if we can do both at the same time, that can make a big impact long-term for our careers. What have I not asked you that you'd really like to share? We've kind of followed a script and so on, but what's the piece that you'd like to add in that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I think it's leadership isn't easy. And I think it starts with all of us, and we got to first lead ourselves, and if we're not leading ourselves by what, speaks to our core, then we're going to struggle, I think, to lead other people. And so how can you lean into leading yourself to be the best version of yourself, and then put that out to other people and know that there's going to be missteps along the way, and those are learning opportunities. And just know that I think if we're humble and ask for grace, and that people will be understanding, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all human, and ask for that grace and forgiveness if need be, sooner rather than later. And I think that things will work out pretty good. So I guess that's it.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I've got a quote that I keep on a little sticky note under one of my monitors that was from Mark Cole, who's coming in to do the wrap-up keynote. He says, "I trust people that make mistakes. I don't trust people that make excuses."
Yeah, I love that. I'm great all day long. If somebody messes up, tell me, okay, that's all good. We can work through that. If you make excuses, then that's a tough one. I think one more thing I did write down that I wanted to add is from a leadership perspective, and even from, I think, the work that we at Appeal do, you do, you mentioned Gil, his work as an engineer, and I think you can tie this to a lot of people, is that the things that we're doing, we're building cathedrals we may never see. We're putting the work in that we may not see the end result of what that means for our client, for ourselves, for the people we work with, for the people that we serve with in our other organizations, the people we happen to be leading, a conversation we have with somebody. You never know what those little moments are going to turn into 5, 10, 20, 100 years down the line. And so I really just always appreciated that quote of, the work that we're doing is we're essentially building cathedrals that we're never going to see.
Yeah, I've got two people that every now and then, two that I can think of right now, probably more, Cindy being another one, but I wasn't picturing her when I'm saying this, that frequently say, "Hey, don't misunderstand or underestimate the impact that you're making through what you do."
Yep.
And hey, back to that clear purpose for accepting leadership responsibility we talked about with the second question. Some days it's freaking hard to run a business to take on that. Would it be easier to throw in the towel and say, "Let's go get a stinking job and not have this responsibility"? without knowing the impact we're making a long time, that clear purpose, if you will, it's not going to drive us. Dude, this has been fantastic. I absolutely love and appreciate the friendship we've got. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Guys, as I wrap this up, I'll always say Cindy and I have built a program. This is the Leading at the Next Level podcast, the full program Leading at the Next Level. Now I think has north of 160 hours worth of content. And pray for Cindy when I say that, because she didn't know what she was agreeing to when I threw it out at her in late 2018. But here it is many, many years later, and all the different stuff that goes into that. If you need continuing education credit, send us an email at admin@dove-development.net, and we'll hook you up with a 45-day all-access pass to get the continuing education credit, kick the tires, do whatever. There's a bunch in the digital resource, but we've also we've been doing live lessons every month for years and years and years. Love to hook you up with that to kick the tires. Now, Andy, anything else you'd like to say before we make this a wrap?
No, Wes, I appreciate the time. You and Cindy do such amazing work. I'm so thankful, grateful for the time that we've spent together. I've definitely improved. I think my leadership skills from working with you guys, and we appreciate the friendship and all that you're doing for the community. So, and thanks for the opportunity to have me on today.
Yeah, really appreciate it, sir. Everybody have a great day. We look forward to seeing you soon. And hopefully it's on June 13th at the Atlantic Union Meg Center for the Leadership Legacy Experience. See you soon. God bless.